What up? Sit down, man. Charlie. What it at? We'll do a rap. Hello, young Coco.
Yo, what's up, cats? I know it has been a while, but this is Professor Tricks back on the job, welcoming you to summer school and episode 2 of how to use the throwing knife. In the first episode, we covered distancing in relation to yourself and where you have to aim in order to make that long distance kill. We also covered the types of enemies that you'd encounter during a typical COD MW3 game. Now, in episode 2, we're going to cover banking and how your knife reacts after hitting a surface. We're also going to cover pursuing the enemy and taking them out with the throwing knife. And then we're also going to cover multiple enemies and how to use that throwing knife to take them out quickly and effectively. Spliggity blow, let's get into this piece. For this next demonstration, I'm just going to show you at what angles the knife bounces off of walls. Now, this is good to know in case you have to retrieve your knife or if you actually want to make a tricky knife bank shot. Now, I'm going to be aiming at this this pink square here as my target. And I'm going to line up at about 20 degrees from the wall. So the angle I'm tossing this knife is about 20 degrees. Now, as you can see, when I throw it, it banks right off the wall and I have to go retrieve it. Now, I'm going to set up using the tiles again, about 8 tiles away, and this is 45 degrees now. Now, I'm going to throw it at 45 degrees at the exact same target. I have to compensate for the distance a little up more, and as you can see, it's still bounced. At 45 degrees, your knife still bounces. Now I'm going to line up just a little bit past 45 degrees, and you'll see that everything that you throw past 45 degrees sticks right into the wall. And there you go. Now keep in mind that the 45-degree angle also applies to ceilings and floors. So if you're banking a throwing knife off of the ceiling or bouncing it off of the ground, it's going to stick in at a greater than 45-degree angle toss. But less than 45-degree angles and you're going to get a nice bounce or bank shot. And once you get used to the angles, you can start applying it to in-game kills and even get some really stylish or even montage-worthy kills. This first one is a ceiling bank in which I kill a sniper unsuspecting in Bakara, and then this next clip is from Fallen, and as you can see, it's a pretty nice bank. And remember that after you bank or bounce the knife, it's going to go significantly slower. So not only are you getting an indirect kill with your throwing knife, but you're also making your throwing knife a lot slower, so it's almost like triple as hard to get in terms of killing someone. But it is very stylish, not very practical, but it's also very fun to try. Now, Ponaholic is an amazing bank artist, and I'm gonna put up one of his recent montages so you can link to that and check out some of the craziest throwing knife bank shots that MW3 has to offer. Now, there are many dangers that come with pursuing an enemy as a knifer. Since you do not have any long distance means beside your throwing knife of taking him out, that gives you one chance if you are not close enough. And even if you have extreme conditioning, you can make up the distance between yourself and your enemy with that additional sprint length. But if you can't make it all the way, you are basically back to square one with sprinting and then jogging and then sprinting and then jogging, just like your foe that is in front of you. And that's not really that much of an advantage. It's a little bit of an advantage because it gets you closer, but oftentimes it doesn't catch you up to them to get the knife to the back that you want. So you will have to use your throwing knife, and these are a few techniques as to how to go about doing that. So in this first example, I spot the enemy in the distance. Now I immediately take out my throw knife as he is pretty far away, and I don't really have a good chance of catching up to him. So I throw my knife. Fortunately for me, an explosion happened to my right, and he did not hear the knife land at his feet. So as he continues off into the distance, I now have the chance to chase him, but I do not have a throwing knife. Now, the thing about the chase is, as this is becoming more lengthy of a chase, he's going to take me off of my line. He may even run me into danger. So that's why I always have to be aware of the map around me. I look up at my map, and he is actually taking me into an area that is circumferenced by my teammates. So I continue my pursuit. Now, at this moment, he kills an enemy, and this is a very, very unique kill that I'm about to obtain, as I am perk aware at this moment. Knowing I have Scavenger Pro, I can pick up that scavenger pack and get the throw knife within this pursuit. Now, not all pursuits are going to be as lucky as that one. That was a very lucky pursuit, as I threw the throwing knife and he didn't even notice, and then I got a second throwing knife to pick up the kill. But this is actually more along the lines of what happens when you're pursuing someone when you throw the knife. As you can see, the enemy is in front of me, and I toss it out. And you can hear that big clanging noise because it makes a really loud, high-pitched sound. And the enemy hears it, he turns around, and I'm not close enough to stab him, and he takes me out. Now, in this next example, I'm going to show you how and when you should throw your throwing knife during a pursuit. As you can see, this enemy is quite a bit away from me, and I cannot actually reach him to get a knife to the back, so I have to think of my throwing knife in this situation. So when I turn this corner, I see that he is running in a straight line. That is the best point in time for you to get that throwing knife kill, is when they are running in a straight line and you can pick them up. This is just another example of the enemy running off in a straight line, and I can easily get the kill as he's in a straight line. Now, a lot of times enemies are going to be very erratic. They're going to be running in zigzag motions. They're going to be making very unpredictable movements, but remain patient. Stay behind them. Don't throw that throwing knife if they're being erratic, as it will cling and clang amongst their feet, and they may turn around and get that kill on you. Another instance of which you can throw your throwing knife is when you're pursuing them and they stop dead, and that's a very good time to throw your throwing knife. Now, if the enemy turns around without any provocation, maybe they hear your footsteps or maybe something else just triggers them to turn around, that is also a good time to throw your knife, as the situation is dire and taking them out with the throw knife is the best option. Or if they're just about to get away, like in the first example that I showed, that is a good time to try to pick up the kill that may have very well left your grasp. And lastly, if you are pursuing someone up a ladder, remember you can use the throwing knife while on the ladder. So give yourself a look-see before actually climbing around, and if there is someone there, throw that knife and get back down that ladder if it misses, but if it hits, you're all good. Up next, how to take out multiple enemies. Taking out multiple enemies is always a tough task, which is why doing it while knifing only is one of the holy grails of knifing. But there are many dangers in doing so. It's very rare that you're coming out on top, but those times that you do are the best times that you'll ever have being a knifer. Now, how you utilize your throwing knife during these frays is very crucial. Unfortunately for us though, there are so many instances of multiple enemies that we can come across that I can't even begin to cover all of them. But what I can do is give you some building blocks so that when you find yourself in that situation, you don't panic and you stay calm. Now, the key to a successful multiple enemy kill feed is your flank. Getting behind the enemy, taking them by surprise, that is the most effective way you can take out multiple enemies in very little time. This first example I'm going to show you is on Arcaden, and I do the flanking technique. I get 3 enemies in a matter of just as many seconds just by having a good flank and taking them all out. Now, when I slow down the replay, you'll see that I knife, and then I use my throwing knife, and then I knife again. That rhythm is very, very important. I want to stress that using your knife amongst your throwing knife during multiple takedowns is very key. Since a lot of knives take longer than a second to actually stab, using your throwing knife immediately after will get the kill in much quicker time. In fact, the throwing knife will be immediate, whereas you'd have to wait that full second in order to complete the stab motion in order to stab again. So having that rhythm between throw knife and knife is very key. Especially if you set up scavenger, you can throw that knife just as fast as you can pick it up. So when we watch this next example of multiple enemies, you'll see that I take out 2 enemies during this fray with throwing knives. So again, knife, throw knife, and then pick up that scavenger pack and immediately another throw knife, and just as quickly another kill. So if you haven't guessed already, using scavenger is very important if you're the type of person that likes to rush when you knife and get into multiple enemy battles. Now if you're the type of knifer to opt for assassin as your second perk, maybe consider using quick draw pro, because when you use assassin, you release that throwing knife at 0.1 seconds. Now that might not sound like a lot of time, but you're going to find yourself face to face with lots of enemies shooting you quicker than you can actually get your throw knife off. So consider using quick draw pro because it cuts that time in half. It goes from 0.1 seconds from releasing from your hand to 0.05 seconds, which is insanely quick. Now I'm going to employ He Who Stabs You, a gamer that I follow and love to watch his feeds. He is one of the best feed artists in terms of Modern Warfare 3 in my opinion. So check out this clip from one of his drop zone games. Now when we watch the replay, you'll see that He Who Stabs You has the rhythm down to an art form. He throws the knife but misses, but then goes for his stab, and then throw knife, stab, and then throw knife, and takes out 4 enemies in under 2 seconds. That is insanely quick. So if you're the type of person to rush, like I said, put on Scavenger Pro and put on Quick Draw Pro, and you'll be taking down enemies under the right circumstances with the right flank, just like that, with enough patience and practice. Now when you get the proper flank on the enemies, it might seem easy to get the multiple kill feed that you're looking for, but what if those enemies are actually facing you or rushing at you? Well, there are so many things and so many variations of this situation that it's really hard to go through all of them, but one thing remains the same through all those situations is take out the main assailant first, or the one that is the most dangerous. Now it has to be instinctual, because in that moment you have to gauge for yourself which person amongst these enemies is the most dangerous, and along with that you have to employ all the tactics that I've taught you in all of these tutorials. You have to consider circling, juking, getting cover when it's available, and you have to do it all in one foul swoop, all while taking out enemies and using your throw knife and your stab all in one situation so that you can get out alive if possible. Now generally the enemies that are nearest to you are the ones that are the most dangerous. Like in this example, I take them out just as they come at me, and since it is easier to take them out close to you. Also notice I do apply the rhythm technique as I kill the first unsuspecting enemy, use the throw knife on the second, and then get the stab on the third. Now in this next example, it's not going to be very apparent as to who the most dangerous is. But as you can see, I made the choice to kill the respawning tack insert enemy. In that moment, I knew he was going to respawn behind me, which is why I turned around and took him out, and he was going to be angry that I just killed him, and he was going to be firing with full desperation to survive and take me out. So I had to turn around and kill him, and his partner there wasn't really a good player, so I got to take him out third. Now in this last clip, you're just going to see He Who Stabs You taking out multiple enemies. The ones nearest to him are the most dangerous, and he's employing the rhythm technique as I showed earlier, and he does it with great style. And I'm gonna put a link to him because he's a great knifer and his montages and feeds are sick, so I hope you enjoy his channel. Alright guys, that about wraps it up for how to use the throwing knife episode 2. There will not be an episode 3, although there are many more techniques you can learn. It just takes a lot of practice. I am retiring this series, this how-to series. It may return in another form when Black Ops 2 comes out, but for now I think I've covered everything that I've wanted to cover. It's pretty late in the game right now, so you should all be pretty well learned in terms of the knife by now. Hope you enjoyed this sode, and Professor Tricks is hanging up his how-to jacket for now. I hope I have genuinely taught you how to wield your knives just a little bit. I know most of it is you guys getting out there and practicing despite what I have to say, so get on all of you cats who picked up the knife and were inspired by this series, and remember, keep those blades sharp.